Rain fell hard against the glass of the Plaza Hotel, Manhattan, the day Lily Hart's life ended, or so it seemed. She sat at a mahogany table in a conference room that smelled faintly of cigars and old money. Her hands trembled as she stared at the divorce papers. The ink blurred through her tears. Adrian Cole, her husband of 8 years, watched her with a cold smirk, his silver Mont Blanc pen tapping the table in rhythm. "Sign it, Lily," he said. "You don't belong in my world anymore." "Fando." Her voice cracked. "I gave you everything. My time, my trust, my love." He leaned forward, his tone sharper. "And I gave you a life you could never afford. Let's not pretend you earned it." Vivian Brooks, the opposing lawyer, shifted uncomfortably. She had seen cruelty in negotiations before, but nothing like this. The contract stripped Lily of everything. Her share in the company, her rights to their penthouse, even her name on the foundation they built together. Still, Lily hesitated. "You know this isn't fair," she whispered. Adrian's smirk widened. "Then don't sign. I'll leak the reports. I'll tell the world you forged my checks." Her breath caught. He was bluffing, or so she wanted to believe. But she'd seen the falsified statements he'd had his assistant prepare. One headline and her career would be over forever. She looked down at the paper again. Her reflection shimmered in her tears. Slowly, she signed. The pen dropped from her hand with a faint clatter. In that moment, she wasn't Lily Hart, the designer who once dreamed of building her own label. She was just a woman erased. Adrian stood, buttoning his gray Armani suit. "Good girl," he said. "My driver will take you to pick up your things. I'll have security change the locks by noon." She looked up, her voice a whisper. "How do you sleep at night?" He smiled thinly. "On Egyptian cotton." When he left, the silence pressed against her chest like stone. Outside, thunder rolled above Fifth Avenue. She gathered the small box of personal items she'd brought: her sketchbook, a silver locket, and her old iPhone that had just buzzed with a message. "Bank account access denied." Lily stumbled out into the rain. The city lights smeared like tears across the wet asphalt. Cameras flashed from a distance, paparazzi waiting for the story of a gold digger's downfall. She turned a corner, clutching her box, her heart pounding. A woman with sharp eyes and a navy umbrella stopped her. "You don't know me," the woman said, handing her a card. "Vivian Brooks. Financial Law and Ethics." Lily blinked, confused. "Why?" Vivian met her gaze. "Because you just signed a lie. And someday, you'll want to take it back." Lily looked down at the card as lightning split the sky above the plaza. Somewhere deep inside, something colder than fear began to burn, something she hadn't felt in years. Resolve. And that was the moment she stopped being a victim and started becoming a storm. Rain still clung to Lily's hair when she arrived at the small walk-up in Queens. The place smelled of old carpet and loneliness. The rent was cheap, the walls were thin, and the heater groaned like an old man. She placed her cardboard box, the one that held the last 8 years of her life, on a wobbly kitchen table and sank into the only chair. Her phone buzzed again. Credit card declined. Another message. Account frozen. Adrian had moved faster than she imagined. She laughed bitterly. One signature and he'd erased her. By midnight, the rain stopped. She stared out the window, watching yellow taxis streak through puddles. Somewhere out there, Adrian was drinking champagne with Sloane Reed, the woman Lily once thought was just a friend. Sloane had been at their wedding. She had toasted to eternal love. Bull. Now she wore Lily's jewelry, smiled in Lily's press photos, and lived in Lily's penthouse. The tabloids called Lily the designer, who flew too close to the Sunday. Adrian's PR machine painted her as a social climber, a woman who used her husband for success. Even her former clients canceled orders, afraid of being tied to a scandal. She tried to sleep, but the silence screamed. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Adrian's voice. "You don't belong in my world." See, for 3 days, she didn't leave the apartment. She lived on black coffee and toast. The 4th morning, she sold her engagement ring at a pawn shop on Roosevelt Avenue. It wasn't worth much. He'd replaced the diamond with a cheaper stone months before the divorce. She used the cash to buy a used sewing machine and a week's worth of groceries. At night, she stitched old fabric scraps together, just to keep her hands from shaking. Creating had always been her way of breathing. She sketched by the dim light of a desk lamp, trying to remember who she'd been before Adrian. One evening, while working a late shift at Starbucks, she spilled coffee on a customer's laptop. The man, a young engineer named Jasper Hale, didn't yell. Instead, he smiled gently. "It's fine. Happens to everyone." He noticed the pencil behind her ear. "You design clothes?" "A little," she said quietly. "Keep doing it," he replied, sliding a business card across the counter. Hale Materials Research, Beverly Hills. She slipped it into her apron pocket and forgot about it. The next day, a cruel twist came. Her former assistant, Rachel, leaked private emails to the press messages that made it look like Lily had begged Adrian for money. The humiliation was complete. She was trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. By nightfall, her landlord taped an eviction notice to the door. Payment overdue. She sat on the floor, surrounded by fabric scraps, her eyes red from crying. A small Kindle lay beside her, her only gift to herself since college. On impulse, she opened it. The screen loaded a book she'd downloaded years ago but never read, Atomic Habits. One line caught her eye. "You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." She whispered the words, like a prayer. Then she tore a sheet from her sketchbook and began to write. Wake up at 6 a.m. Apply for sewing jobs. Save $10 a day. Don't let them win. Her hand steadied. She taped the list to the cracked wall. Outside, the city kept moving indifferent, merciless. But inside that tiny apartment, something had shifted. She had nothing left to lose, and that meant she had everything to build. And as she closed her eyes that night, she made a silent vow. Someday, they'll remember my name not because I was his wife, but because I rose from the ashes he left behind. Vass. 2 months later, the air in New York felt too heavy to breathe. Every street corner reminded Lily of what she'd lost: the cafe, where Adrian proposed, the Fifth Avenue boutique that once carried her designs, the gallery where they'd posed for glossy magazines. She couldn't walk a block without seeing a reflection of the woman she used to be, and she hated her. One night, while scrolling through job boards on her cracked iPhone, an ad appeared: assistant seamstress needed, Beverly Hills Couture Studio. It was posted by a small designer named Isla Ward. Pay: minimum wage. Housing not included. Lily hesitated, then whispered to herself, anywhere but here. She pawned her last pair of Louboutins, bought a one-way ticket to Los Angeles, and boarded a red-eye flight with 2 suitcases, a sewing kit, and a dream she didn't believe in anymore. When the plane landed, the California sun blinded her. She took the bus to Beverly Hills, dragging her suitcase across the sidewalk until she found the studio, a glass-front shop tucked between a yoga center and a juice bar. Inside, mannequins in silk gowns sparkled under warm lights. Isla Ward looked up from her sketches. "You're early," she said, her accent sharp but kind. "I figured being early might help you forget I don't have a portfolio," Lily answered softly. Isla studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Can you hand sew invisible seams?" "Yes." "Good. There's coffee in the back and a pile of gowns that need saving. Welcome to couture." That night, Lily worked until her fingers bled. The satin fabric slipped through her hands like water, but her stitches were precise, controlled. It felt good to be useful again. She didn't tell anyone she used to own her own brand. She didn't even tell them her last name. She was just Lily, the quiet assistant. Days turned into weeks. She slept in a rented room behind a small bakery. The smell of croissants filled the air each morning. Her car, a dented Toyota Corolla she bought off Craigslist, barely ran, but it carried her to work every day. She made just enough to eat, to live, to survive. One afternoon, while Isla was fitting a celebrity client, a man entered the studio, tall, sun-kissed, wearing jeans and a black t-shirt. It was Jasper Hale, the same man from Starbucks. He smiled when he saw her. "Didn't think I'd find you here." She blinked in surprise. "You still remember me?" "Hard to forget someone who spilled espresso on my MacBook and apologized like she'd committed a crime." He chuckled. "I work nearby. My company's developing a way to grow lab diamonds with zero carbon output. We're testing how they could be used in fashion, maybe embroidery, maybe jewelry." Her eyes widened. "Diamonds. On fabric?" "Exactly," he said. "Most people think it's impossible." Most people haven't met me, she replied before she could stop herself. He laughed. Then maybe we should talk. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She sat by the small window of her rented room, looking at the glowing LA skyline. For the first time in years, her heart stirred with something like hope. But deep inside, she still heard Adrian's voice echoing, "You don't belong in my world. Pokin." She looked out at the city, whispered back, "Then I'll build my own." What she didn't know was that her new beginning would soon collide with her past, and the same world she ran from was already waiting for her return. The first time Jasper showed Lily the diamond dust, it looked like glitter spilled across a sheet of white paper. Tiny, colorless fragments shimmered under the fluorescent light. "They're not mined," he explained. "Each one is lab-grown, pure carbon, crystallized under pressure. No blood, no politics, just brilliance." Lily ran her finger along the edge of the microscope tray. "You're saying you can stitch these into fabric?" "That's the dream," he said. "But the problem is, they melt the tool before they stick. Too much heat, too little control." She leaned closer, eyes sharp. "You're heating the adhesive to 120 degrees Celsius? Jasper raised a brow. "How do you know that?" "Because silk burns at 130, she said simply. "Lower the temperature. Switch the adhesive to a bio-based polymer. It reacts slower." He stared at her like she'd just solved a riddle. "You're wasted in a sewing room." She smiled faintly. "I know." Over the next few weeks, they worked side by side after hours in Jasper's small lab near Fairfax. The hum of the machine mixed with the soft jazz playing from an old speaker. Lily's hands moved with the patience of a surgeon. Every failed attempt left burns on her fingers. Every success a small victory. Once, at 2 a.m., the tool finally held a diamond without scorching. Jasper whooped like a child, spinning her around. She laughed for the first time in years. "You did it," she said. "No," he grinned, breathless. "We did it." They named the technique lattice loom embroidery. It was delicate, nearly invisible diamonds that shimmered as if floating in air. Lily saw endless possibilities. Gowns that didn't just sparkle but told stories. Still, money was tight. Jasper's investors pulled out, calling the idea too niche. Bills piled up, lab rent overdue. Lily began sewing small commissions for wealthy clients, hiding the exhaustion under lipstick and fake smiles. One evening, she found Jasper pacing outside, phone pressed to his ear. "What's wrong?" she asked. He sighed. "Our landlord's giving us 2 weeks. If we can't pay, the lab's gone." "Mun." She looked at the samples scattered across the table, their dream in pieces. "Then we sell it," she said. "To who?" "I don't know. Someone who believes in light." That night, she emailed a contact from her old life, an editor at Vogue Interiors. The subject line, "A new kind of sparkle." She attached photos of their prototype and hit send, heart-pounding. Days passed. No reply. Then, one morning, her phone buzzed. A reply from the editor, "Meet me in New York. If this is real, it could change fashion." Her stomach twisted. New York, the last place she wanted to go. The last city where she'd been broken. But she looked at Jasper, then at the glowing swatch of diamond-stitched tulle under the light. "I'm going," she said. He nodded slowly. "I'll book the tickets." As she packed that night, rain started to fall again, soft, familiar. She caught her reflection in the window. This time, the woman staring back wasn't fragile. She was sharper, quieter, but alive. Still, somewhere in Manhattan, Adrian Cole's empire was rising higher than ever. His new luxury hotel, the Cole Grand, was the talk of Wall Street. His name appeared on every magazine. Lily whispered to herself, "Let's see whose light shines longer." What she didn't know was that stepping back into New York would awaken ghosts, and one of them was waiting for her with a trap disguised as an opportunity. The plane touched down at JFK on a cloudy afternoon. For Lily, New York didn't feel like home. It felt like a battlefield she'd barely survived. She carried one suitcase filled with fabric swatches, sketches, and the only sample of lattice loom embroidery in existence. Jasper followed behind, his energy loud enough for both of them. "New York, baby," he cheered as they stepped out of the terminal. "City of dreams." Lily half smiled. "For me, it's the city of ghosts." They took a cab to a tiny rented studio in the garment district. The building was old, the elevator slower than a sigh. Inside, the walls smelled like dust and ambition. Lily set up her sewing machine, while Jasper unpacked the lab kit. They had one goal: finish a prototype dress for the Vogue Interiors meeting. 3 sleepless nights later, it was ready. A silk gown, weightless, shimmering like a night sky scattered with stars. When the editor arrived, a tall woman in a crisp Dior suit, she studied it for a long, silent minute. "Who are you people?" she asked finally. Lily stood straighter. "We're Heartline Studios, a collaboration between couture and science." The editor nodded slowly. "You're either brilliant or insane." "Maybe both," Lily said softly. The article came out 2 weeks later. Meet the woman sewing diamonds into dreams. Overnight, orders flooded in. Not from the rich and famous, but from women who'd read Lily's story and saw courage in her stitches. The first client, a widow from Boston, wrote, "I want a dress that reminds me light still exists." Lily cried when she read it. For the first time, her pain had purpose. She named the brand Heartline, a fusion of her surname and the invisible line that connected hearts through art. Jasper became her partner in business, while Vivian, ever the strategist, handled legal structure from afar. But success didn't come without shadows. One evening, while Lily reviewed invoices, she noticed an email from an unknown sender. "Does Adrian know you're using stolen assets?" Attached was a photo of her standing beside Jasper, holding a lattice loom sample. Her blood turned cold. Someone was watching. She called Vivian immediately. "Stay calm," Vivian said. "Don't reply. Adrian's people are fishing. They think they still own you." Lily exhaled shakily. "How do I fight a man who owns the press?" "By owning the truth," Vivian answered. "Build something he can't destroy." So Lily doubled down. She rented a slightly larger studio on Fairfax Avenue, Los Angeles, moving production there to escape Adrian's reach. They filmed behind-the-scenes clips of artisans hand-stitching diamond dust, uploaded them to social media, and overnight, Heartline became the mystery brand everyone was talking about. Celebrities requested gowns for charity galas. Influencers begged for collaborations. Jasper handled tech investors, while Lily refined each dress until it whispered elegance and resilience. Yet, as the company grew, so did the tension between them. Jasper wanted faster expansion factories, mass production, press coverage. Lily wanted control, precision, and ethics. "You're thinking small," he argued one night. "We could be billionaires." She looked him dead in the eye. "I didn't start this to be rich. I started it to matter." Silence. The first crack in their partnership appeared. Still, the next morning, they shipped their biggest order yet, 7 gowns for a Paris exhibition. Lily watched the courier drive away and whispered, "We did it, Mom." She didn't notice the black Mercedes parked across the street. Inside, a man in a tailored suit adjusted his cufflinks and smirked. Adrian Cole had found her. And this time, he wasn't coming for her heart. He was coming for her legacy. The rain in Los Angeles that evening came without warning, sharp, silver, relentless. Inside Heartline's new Fairfax studio, Lily stood by the wide glass window, watching the drops streak down like tears on a mirror. Orders were booming. The press called her the woman who stitched science into soul. But the higher she climbed, the closer she felt the air around her tighten. Jasper burst into the room, holding a manila folder. "Guess who just announced his next project?" Lily looked up from her sketchbook. "Don't say it." He tossed the folder on the table. The logo was unmistakable. Cole Capital. The words below made her chest tighten. The Cole Grand Hotel, Park Avenue, New York. Her voice dropped. "He's expanding." "Expanding?" Jasper laughed bitterly. "He's rebuilding the empire with your old designs. Look at this." He flipped through the photos, Adrian's marketing materials, his luxury interior sketches, even the signature geometric lace pattern Lily created years ago. She whispered, "He's using my work." Jasper frowned. "You can sue." She shook her head. "He registered the trademarks under his name the year before our divorce. It's all gone." Jasper slammed the folder shut. "Then we fight differently. Let's get him where it hurts his investors." The next day, Vivian called from New York. "I've been following Cole Capital's filings," she said. "He's bleeding cash. That hotel's financed with shell loans. If he collapses, investors lose millions. If you ever wanted justice, this is how." Lily hesitated. Justice or revenge? Vivian's tone softened. "In your case, they're the same thing." They formed a plan. Heartline's revenue would quietly funnel into a holding company. That company would, through layers of trusts, acquire small bonds tied to Cole Capital. If his balance sheets turned fraudulent, those bonds could convert into equity control. But while Lily strategized, another storm brewed closer. Late one night, she found Jasper arguing outside with a stranger, a tall man in a gray suit. The conversation turned heated. "Who was that?" she asked when the man left. Jasper rubbed his temples. "Just a potential investor." "Since when do investors hand you envelopes?" He froze. "It's not what you think." Lily's instincts screamed. She'd seen that tone before, half guilt, half fear. But she said nothing. Instead, she poured herself into work. She didn't know that the envelope contained $50,000 in cash from Adrian's associate. A week later, the lab's key equipment vanished. Gone. No forced entry. Jasper blamed the movers. Lily knew better. Her phone buzzed that night with an anonymous message. "You built Heartline on stolen tech. You'll burn for it." Attached was a blurry photo of her and Jasper in the lab. Panic surged through her. "Vivian, they're coming after me again," she whispered over the phone. Vivian replied calmly. "Then, we play smarter. Transfer all patents to a trust. I'll handle the paperwork." "But Lily," her voice dropped. "Don't trust anyone, completely. Not even Jasper." Lily's breath hitched. "Why would you say that?" "Because Adrian pays well," Vivian said quietly. "And he's desperate." That night, Lily worked alone until dawn. The hum of the sewing machine drowned out the rain. Every stitch was an act of defiance. Every spark of diamond dust, a reminder that beauty could still grow from pain. She looked at the glowing fabric, whispering, "You can steal my name, my work, my money, but not this." Then she lifted her head, eyes sharp. "Not me." But across town, Jasper was already sitting in a dim hotel bar signing a contract that would make him rich, and make her ruin complete. The morning light poured through the studio windows, soft and golden, but nothing about that day would stay beautiful for long. Lily arrived early, clutching a Starbucks cup, ready to finish the final gown for an upcoming Beverly Hills gala. Yet when she unlocked the door, the silence inside felt wrong. Her steps echoed. The machine's gone. The diamond-powdered jars empty. The racks of gowns vanished. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered, her voice shaking. The studio had been robbed clean, but there were no signs of forced entry. The security camera's red light blinked, dead. Someone had known the code. Someone she trusted. Jasper. Her fingers trembled as she called his number. Straight to voicemail. She dialed again. Nothing. On the fourth try, the message tone clicked. "This number is temporarily disconnected." She sat on the floor, surrounded by broken glass and scraps of fabric, the faint smell of burnt wires lingering. It wasn't just theft, it was sabotage. Everything she'd built, gone in one night. By noon, Vivian called. "Lily, I just got off a call with the patent office." Jasper filed a trademark for lattice loom, under his own name. Lily froze. "No, that's impossible. He registered it with documentation that matches your blueprints," Vivian said softly. "He had access to the backups." Lily felt her throat close. Her mind flashed back to every late-night laugh, every time he'd said, "We're in this together." All lies. "I should have known," she whispered. Vivian's tone hardened. "Listen to me. He's not working alone. The signature on his corporate filing belongs to one of Adrian's shell companies in Zurich. This was planned." Lily pressed her hand against her chest. "Adrian paid him?" "Yes," Vivian said. "And now he's flying to Switzerland to sell the patent outright. Once it clears, Heartline is finished." The room spun. For a moment, Lily couldn't breathe. "Then we stop him." "How?" "I'll go public." "No." Vivian's voice cut sharp. "You'll only look desperate. Let him think he's won. I'll delay the transaction legally. But you stay quiet. Go dark." That night, Lily sat alone in her apartment, the city lights glowing through the blinds. The betrayal hit harder than the first time Adrian destroyed her life, because this time, she'd truly believed in Jasper. On her desk lay a folder of old sketches. She flipped through them until she found the first drawing she ever made, the prototype of her wedding gown. Simple, elegant, untouched. She traced the lines with her finger and whispered, "I survived once. I'll survive again." But the following week pushed her to the edge. The tabloids exploded with headlines. Heartline fraud scandal. Former partner accused of intellectual theft. Her face was everywhere. Online comments tore her apart. She probably used him. Another washed-up designer, blaming men for her mistakes. She turned off her phone, unplugged her laptop, and stopped answering calls. For 3 days, she didn't eat. She only sewed obsessively, desperately, with whatever scraps she had left. Fabric became her therapy, her language. On the 4th night, exhaustion overtook her. She collapsed on the studio floor and woke up in the hospital, IV lines running into her arm. Vivian sat beside her. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lily croaked. Vivian sighed. "Because you needed to break before you could build something unbreakable." Lily turned her head, eyes dull but steady. "He took everything." Vivian smiled faintly. "Then start with nothing again. Because now, you know how." See. Outside her window, Los Angeles glimmered, unaware of her quiet rebirth. Somewhere across the ocean, Jasper was celebrating. But for the first time, Lily didn't feel destroyed. She felt dangerous. And the woman who once cried over broken glass was about to turn it into diamonds again. The hospital room was cold, the fluorescent lights humming like ghosts. Lily sat up slowly, staring at the rain tapping against the window pane. Her hands were still bandaged from sewing until they bled. The nurse had left a stack of mail on the side table, bills, a few sympathy cards, and one envelope with no return address. Curious, she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on delicate stationery that smelled faintly of lavender. "Dear Miss Hart, you don't know me, but you once changed my daughter's life. She wore one of your dresses to her graduation. She said it made her feel strong. Don't let them take that from you. The world needs your light. M. Brooks." Lily froze. The name hit her like thunder. Brooks. Vivian's mother. The same woman who'd once given her a cup of coffee on the worst night of her life in Central Park. Tears blurred her vision. She whispered, "How does the world keep sending me this woman?" The nurse entered quietly. "You okay, sweetheart?" Lily nodded. "I think I just got a sign." 2 days later, she was discharged. Her apartment still smelled of dust and old fabric, but something inside her had shifted. She downloaded Women Who Run with the Wolves on her Kindle and underlined a line that pierced straight through her. "A woman's creative life is her soul made visible." She whispered to herself, "Then it's time they see my soul." She began sketching again, ferociously, obsessively. She didn't have money for materials, so she scavenged old garments from thrift stores, cutting, dyeing, reshaping. She hand-stitched broken glass into the hems, letting them catch the light like fractured diamonds. Each piece told a story. Pain reborn as beauty. When she couldn't afford thread, she unraveled her own clothes and reused the fibers. When she couldn't buy fabric, she turned discarded curtains into silk panels. One night, Vivian called from New York. "I found something," she said. "Jasper's patent sale hasn't closed yet. There's a 30-day window where you can legally challenge it if you have proof the design originated from your work." Lily exhaled shakily. "I have sketches, photos, prototypes, but they were all taken." Vivian's tone softened. "Not all. Check your old cloud backup, the one tied to your Heartline email. You might still have timestamps." Lily rushed to her MacBook Air and logged in. The screen flickered, then loaded dozens of images. Early designs, test notes, time-stamped videos of her sewing lattice, loom before Jasper ever touched a sample. Proof. She stared at the folder, heart pounding. This wasn't just evidence, it was resurrection. Over the next week, Vivian filed motions through an independent court. Adrian's legal team countered with threats, but they didn't expect Vivian's precision. The case went into arbitration. For the first time, Lily wasn't running, she was fighting back. But while Vivian handled the law, Lily handled the light. She renamed her new line the Phoenix series. Each gown shimmered with recycled materials and glass fragments, representing rebirth through fire. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the Los Angeles skyline, Lily stood in her studio surrounded by half-finished gowns. The orange glow lit the diamonds like tiny embers. She whispered, "You burned me down, Adrian. But you forgot ashes can shine too." Her new collection wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about evolution. Still, fate wasn't done testing her. 3 days before her official comeback show, a courier delivered another envelope, this time embossed with the Cole capital seal. Inside, a single line, "If you show your face again, I'll destroy you, this time legally." Lily read it once, twice, then set it down. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then I guess I'll need a brighter spotlight." Because this time, she wasn't just returning to prove herself, she was returning to end him. The morning sun over Los Angeles was sharp, golden, and merciless. Lily woke to the sound of sewing machines humming in the back of her small studio. Her team, 2 assistants she'd hired with the last of her savings, were cutting fabric in silence. The air smelled of silk, coffee, and desperation. Pinned to the center board was her final sketch, the masterpiece she'd been dreaming of since the night she read that lavender-scented letter, the Stardust dress. It wasn't just a gown. It was her declaration of war. The design called for over 30,000 lab-grown diamonds, each micro-sewn into transparent tulle so light it could float in a breeze. The estimated cost? $2 million. The time required? Impossible. But Lily no longer believed in the impossible. Vivian called that morning. "Are you sure you want to debut this at the Manhattan Gala?" "It's dangerous, Lily. You'll be standing right in Adrian's arena." "I know," Lily said. "That's why it has to be there." Joe. The plan was audacious. The gala would celebrate innovation in sustainable luxury, sponsored by Cole Capital. Lily's name wasn't on the official list, but it would be. She'd already secured a last-minute partnership with a jewelry foundation that loved her Phoenix concept. They'd cover the entry fees, the publicity, everything. "I don't want revenge anymore," she told Vivian. "I want the truth shining so bright he can't hide from it." Days blurred into nights. She barely ate, barely slept. She worked with her assistants in shifts, sewing until her fingers blistered. Each diamond was set into fabric by hand, stitched under magnification to mimic constellations. Under studio light, the dress looked like a piece of the Milky Way torn from the sky. One evening, as she adjusted the bodice, her assistant, Emma, asked quietly, "Who's it for?" Lily smiled faintly. "For every woman who ever signed something she didn't deserve to sign." By midnight, they finished the first fitting. The dress shimmered like liquid light. But when Lily looked in the mirror wearing it herself, she didn't see revenge, she saw resilience. For a long moment, she just stood there, tears falling silently onto the diamonds. The next morning, Vivian arrived from New York, her suitcase full of legal documents. "You're trending again," she said, tossing her phone onto the table. Headlines screamed. "Disgraced designer plots comeback at Cole Gala." Pez. Lily scanned the comments, expecting venom, but this time, half were supportive. "She deserves redemption." They tried to bury her, but they forgot she was a seed. She laughed softly. "Maybe the world still has a heart." Vivian crossed her arms. "Be careful. Adrian will strike before you walk that carpet." As if on cue, Lily's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You can't outshine me. Don't embarrass yourself." She typed back only 2 words. "Watch me. I'm." Over the following week, journalists began requesting interviews, fashion bloggers begged for previews, and her tiny studio turned into chaos. But through the noise, Lily remained calm. The only thing that mattered was the unveiling. On the night before the gala, she stood alone in the darkened studio. The Stardust dress hung in the center, glowing faintly under soft lamplight. She touched the hem and whispered, "Every stitch is a scar. Every sparkle is a story." Bull. For a moment, she imagined Adrian's face when he saw her alive, successful, radiant. Then she smiled, not out of bitterness, but peace. She turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked into the cool night air. Above her, the Los Angeles sky glittered indifferent, infinite, but familiar. And Lily Hart whispered to the stars, Tomorrow, they'll remember who I am. Because the woman he destroyed was gone. The one walking into Manhattan now wore armor made of diamonds and fire. The plane descended over Manhattan at dawn, the skyline slicing through clouds like a memory she'd tried to bury. Lily pressed her forehead against the window, watching the familiar gray city spread below her. 8 years ago, she'd left New York in disgrace. Now she was returning wrapped in diamonds. Vivian met her at the terminal. Elegant as ever in a black trench coat, her Mont Blanc pen clipped neatly to her pocket. "You're trending again," she said dryly. "Half the press think you're insane. The other half think you're a genius. I'll settle for both," Lily replied with a half-smile. They stepped into a waiting car that glided through Fifth Avenue, past boutiques she once designed for but could no longer enter. Every billboard, every cafe window whispered memories her old life, with Adrian, the nights of laughter, the silence that followed betrayal. The car stopped outside the Plaza Hotel, the same building where she'd signed the divorce papers, the same marble steps where her tears had once vanished into the rain. She froze, her heart pounding. Vivian touched her shoulder. "You sure about this?" "Yes," Lily said quietly. "I want him to see the place where he buried me. I want him to realize I climbed out." Inside the Plaza's ballroom, preparations for the Innovation in Luxury Gala were already underway. Chandeliers glittered above white marble floors. Designers and CEOs mingled with champagne glasses, their laughter echoing through the air. Lily's team wheeled in the stardust dress, sealed under a silk cover. Reporters immediately turned their cameras toward her. Flash after flash blinded her vision. "Miss Hart, is it true your dress is worth $2 million? Did you steal the lattice loom design from your ex-husband? Are you and Adrian Cole meeting tonight?" Lily raised her chin. "You'll get your answers soon enough." "Da." Backstage, she adjusted her reflection in the mirror. The gown hugged her like armor, every diamond catching the light with deliberate defiance. For a moment, she imagined Adrian watching cold, furious, powerless. Vivian entered, holding a folder. "Before you walk out there, you should know Adrian's here." Lily didn't flinch. "Of course he is. He's sponsoring tonight's gala. And rumor says he's planning to announce a merger between Cole Capital and another conglomerate. If it goes through, he'll regain full control of his company. Then maybe," Lily said softly, "he'll lose it just as quickly." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 8 years settle and then lift. The MC's voice echoed through the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a woman redefining the boundary between science and couture, Miss Lily Hart of Heartline." Applause thundered. She stepped into the spotlight. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The stardust dress glowed under the chandeliers, each diamond scattering beams of light across the walls. It wasn't just a gown, it was rebirth made visible. Adrian stood near the champagne table, glass frozen in his hand. For a brief second, their eyes met. His smirk faltered. Lily smiled. "Thank you," she began, her voice calm but carrying. 8 years ago, I walked out of this building with nothing. Tonight, I return not for revenge, but for truth, because light doesn't belong to the man who steals it. It belongs to the one who creates it." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, questions shouted, but Lily barely heard them. For the first time in years, she wasn't running. As she turned away, Adrian's assistant whispered something to him. His face blanched. Vivian slipped through the crowd, eyes steady. "The board meeting's been moved to tomorrow morning," she whispered to Lily. "Everything's in place. Just die." Lily looked toward Adrian once more, her smile knowing. Because tonight was just the opening act, and tomorrow, the empire that broke her would finally crumble. The gala glittered like a movie scene, crystal chandeliers, gold champagne flutes, a string quartet playing Sinatra. Yet beneath the perfection was tension so sharp it could cut glass. Lily moved through the crowd gracefully, the stardust dress catching every flash of light, every gaze of awe and envy. But she wasn't there to be admired. She was there to expose a lie 8 years in the making. Adrian Cole stood across the ballroom, surrounded by investors and journalists. His smile was smooth, his tuxedo immaculate. He looked exactly as he had the day he broke her, confident, charming, poisonous. The only difference was that now she saw him clearly. Vivian joined her at the bar, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "He's nervous," she murmured. eyes scanning the room. The merger announcement was delayed. He's waiting for a call that won't come. Lily raised an eyebrow. You intercepted it? Vivian smiled faintly. Let's just say his partners are asking questions about some irregular accounting. He doesn't know yet that those questions came from me. Lily took a slow sip. You're terrifying. That's why you keep me around, Vivian replied. Across the room, Adrian's gaze locked onto Lily. He excused himself from his circle and started walking toward her, every step deliberate. The room seemed to tighten around them, the music fading into background static. Lily Hart, he said smoothly, his voice dripping false charm. I didn't think you'd have the nerve to show your face here. She turned, smiling as if greeting an old friend. And miss the unveiling of your next stolen masterpiece? Never. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Careful. Defamation still counts as a crime. 4. Then I'll make sure to show proof, she said, her tone calm but cutting. Wouldn't want you to worry about my legal manners. Adrian's expression faltered. For the first time, his mask cracked. Enjoy your evening, she added sweetly. It might be your last as a CEO. As he turned away, Vivian approached, phone in hand. The press conference is ready, she whispered. If you still want to do it. Lily hesitated. The plan was simple. She'd reveal the Stardust dress as not only an artistic triumph, but as tangible evidence of her rightful ownership of Lattice, Loom. The design patent registration was finalized that very morning, under Heartline Trust. Once announced publicly, Adrian's claim would be invalidated instantly. But something else stirred inside her. This wasn't just about reclaiming her work, it was about ending the fear that had shadowed her life. She nodded. Let's do it. 1. Minutes later, the MC called her back to the stage for a brief artist's statement. Adrian's eyes widened. He knew something was coming. Lily took the microphone. 8 years ago, she began, her voice steady. I signed papers in this very hotel that stripped me of everything. My name, my work, my worth. But you can't erase creation. Tonight, the world sees proof that light survives even in darkness. She turned to the screen behind her. A live feed projected images. Her original sketches, time-stamped videos, the patent confirmation filed under her name. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters lifted cameras. Adrian's face turned pale. Vivian stepped forward, handing sealed folders to members of the press. Financial misconduct, she announced clearly. Fraudulent mergers. Evidence filed with the SEC. Chaos erupted. Adrian tried to speak, but his voice drowned in the flash of cameras and the rising murmur of disbelief. Lily stepped down from the stage, her dress gleaming like vengeance and starlight combined. She didn't look back. Vivian caught up to her near the exit. You did it, she whispered. Lily smiled faintly. No, she said, eyes glinting. This was just truth. Tomorrow comes justice. And as they walked into the cold Manhattan night, the city lights reflected in the diamonds of her gown, each one a promise that the empire built on lies was finally beginning to fall. By the time the last camera flash faded, Adrian Cole's empire had already begun to crack. The next morning, headlines exploded across every major outlet. Cole Capital under investigation. Alleged fraud and misappropriation. The woman he erased returns in diamonds. Lily sat in the corner booth of a small cafe on Park Avenue, her coffee untouched, the newspaper trembling slightly in her hands. Across from her, Vivian scrolled through her iPad, calm as ever. You started an earthquake, Vivian said. His partners are pulling out. The SEC's already frozen 2 of his subsidiary accounts. Lily stared at the photo on the front page. Adrian, jaw clenched, surrounded by reporters. For years, she had dreamed of seeing him like this. Now that it had happened, she felt quiet. I thought it would feel better, she murmured. Vivian closed the tablet. Justice never feels like fireworks. It feels like balance. Just then, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Lily Hart. A pause, then Adrian's voice, low and ragged. Enjoying your little moment? She didn't flinch. Truth has a way of finding its audience. He laughed bitterly. You think you've won? I still have leverage. You forget I know things about you. I still have copies of our old contracts. One wrong move, and I'll You'll what? She cut in. Forge another lie? Silence. Then a slow, controlled breath. Be careful, Lily. I built this city on people like you. And I can rebuild it on your ashes. She ended the call. Vivian looked at her. He's cornered. Cornered men bite. I know, Lily said softly. That's why we make sure the cage is sealed. That afternoon, they met with an SEC representative in a glass tower overlooking Wall Street. Vivian presented documents emails proving Adrian had rerouted investor money through Cayman accounts. Lily watched the official's expression shift from suspicion to shock. Emshart, the agent said finally, these are serious claims. Vivian smiled thinly. So is stealing 8 years of someone's life. When they left the building, the city felt different. The sky was clearer, the wind colder, sharper. Lily looked up at the skyscraper's symbols of men like Adrian and whispered, even stone can break. But Adrian wasn't finished. That evening, as Lily returned to her hotel suite overlooking Central Park, she found the door slightly ajar. Her heartbeat quickened. She stepped inside. The lights were off. On the glass coffee table sat a single champagne flute, and beside it, a white envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside, a glossy photo. Herself in the stardust dress, taken from a private fitting weeks earlier. Written in black ink across the image. You're not the only one who keeps secrets. Her hands shook. She called hotel security. Then Vivian. He broke into your suite, Vivian asked, voice icy. Good. Now it's evidence. What do you mean good? Vivian exhaled. We can use this. He just committed trespassing and intimidation during an active investigation. It's enough to get a restraining order and maybe even speed up prosecution. For the first time, Lily smiled. You really don't blink, do you? Not until they're gone, Vivian said. The next morning, the photo appeared on social media cropped to look like a scandal. Designer in $2M dress caught in secret meeting, the caption read. Adrian was trying to humiliate her again, twisting the narrative. But this time, the world didn't buy it. Comments flooded in defending her. Fans shared her story, her courage, her work. The tag number Stardust Strong trended worldwide. Lily scrolled through the messages, tears welling as one caught her eye. You turned pain into power. Thank you, Vivian called moments later. He's finished. His board just voted him out as CEO. Lily stood by the window, looking down at the glittering city. Her reflection merged with the skyline, a woman rebuilt from ruin. Then it's done? She asked softly. Not yet, Vivian said. You still need to face him one last time. Lily nodded slowly, her jaw set. Because justice wasn't complete until the man who destroyed her looked into her eyes and saw the woman he could never break again. Snow fell softly over Manhattan that night, turning Park Avenue into a glittering river of white. The city was quieter than usual, almost reverent, as if it knew something was about to end. Lily stood inside Coal Capital's glass headquarters, waiting. Her reflection shimmered in the marble floor, wrapped once again in the stardust dress. This time, she wasn't here as a designer or a victim. She was here as the owner of his empire. Vivian stood beside her, calm and precise as ever. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes, she said, adjusting her glasses. Security's tight. He won't expect you here, but he can't legally stop you. Lily nodded. He'll try anyway. He always does, Vivian said dryly. At exactly 9 a.m., the elevator doors slid open, and Adrian Cole stepped out. His once perfect posture was gone, his eyes bloodshot, his tailored suit wrinkled. The fall from grace had been swift. When he saw her, he froze. You, he hissed. You don't belong here. Funny, she said evenly. That's what you told me 8 years ago. When did? For a long moment, neither moved. The hum of fluorescent lights filled the silence. Then Lily walked past him, heels echoing against marble, and entered the boardroom. Adrian followed, fury in every step. Inside, the directors sat stiffly, papers spread across the table. They looked between Lily and Adrian with wary eyes. Vivian placed a folder in front of them. Ladies and gentlemen, she said smoothly, this meeting concerns the transition of control. As of this morning, the Heartline Trust has activated its convertible bond rights, granting Miss Lily Hart a 31% controlling interest in Cole Capital. A murmur swept the room. Adrian's face went pale. That's impossible. Those bonds were anonymous investments shell companies. Lily turned toward him. You taught me that trick, remember? Vivian slid another document across the table. And here's proof that you financed those same bonds with falsified statements. That's wire fraud, Mr. Cole. The room fell silent. Adrian's breathing grew ragged. You set me up, he whispered. Lily met his eyes. No. You set yourself up. I just stopped pretending to lose. One of the board members cleared his throat. Given these findings, I move to suspend Mr. Cole pending investigation. Seconded, another said. All in favor. Hands rose, everyone except Adrian's. He slammed his fist on the table. You think this changes anything? You'll never survive in this business. You don't have the name, the power. I have the truth. Lily interrupted. And unlike you, I don't need to lie to be seen. He stared at her, breathing hard, then let out a broken laugh. You wanted revenge. Congratulations, you got it. Lily shook her head slowly. Revenge was years ago. This is closure. Security entered quietly, escorting him out. He didn't fight. He just turned once more to look at her. You'll regret this, he muttered. I already did, she replied softly. Now I'm done. As the doors closed behind him, the tension in the room lifted like smoke. Vivian touched Lily's shoulder gently. It's over. Lily exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. No, she said. It's beginning. Later that evening, she walked alone through Central Park. Snowflakes caught in her hair, glowing under the streetlights. Her phone buzzed a message from the SEC. Case officially closed. Cole Capital transferred under Heartline Trust Management. She smiled faintly, pocketing the phone. The city that once broke her now bowed before her perseverance. Above her, the skyline shimmered. And Lily Hart whispered to the cold winter air, You took my voice. I built a symphony from the silence. The man who destroyed her was gone, but the woman he created would never fade again. Winter melted into a hesitant New York spring. For the first time in nearly a decade, Lily Hart woke without fear. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of her new office overlooking Park Avenue. The same skyline that once mocked her now glittered in silent respect. Cole Capital's gold-lettered logo had already been replaced with a sleek new name, Heartline Holdings. Vivian entered with 2 Starbucks cups and her usual calm authority. Your 9 a.m. is waiting. The press wants a statement about Adrian's indictment. 1-0. Lily accepted her coffee, a soft smile on her lips. Let them write what they will. The truth's already louder than any headline. Vivian arched an eyebrow. You sound almost merciful. I'm not, Lily said. I'm just finished fighting ghosts. Still, the world wasn't done talking. Every news outlet ran her story. The Phoenix of Park Avenue. Women sent letters thanking her for surviving what they couldn't. Universities asked her to speak. Investors begged to back her next project. But behind the fame was exhaustion. Years of endurance pressing down all at once. She found herself one evening standing in the very ballroom of the plaza, now empty after an event. She ran her fingers over the marble columns, remembering the day she'd signed her name and lost her life. The memory didn't sting anymore. It pulsed like an old scar, proof of healing. Hard to believe, a voice said behind her. Lily turned. It was Jasper Hale, in a modest gray coat, his eyes tired but sincere. She hadn't seen him since the betrayal. What are you doing here? She asked coolly. I was subpoenaed, he said with a wry smile. Adrian's lawyers made me testify. They took everything from me. The money, the company. It's all gone. You made your choice, she replied. I know. He stepped closer, voice trembling. But for what it's worth, I never stopped believing in what we built. You were right. Light belongs to the one who creates it. 1. Lily studied him in silence, the past flickering behind her eyes. You stole from me, Jasper. Not just my work, my trust. He swallowed. And I'll spend the rest of my life earning it back. Not from you, maybe, but from myself. Something in his voice cracked, and for the first time, she saw not a traitor, but a broken man. She nodded once. Then start there. When he left, she stood alone beneath the chandeliers, letting the silence wrap around her. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant reclaiming peace. 2 weeks later, she attended a charity gala hosted by the Metropolitan Museum. Her arrival silenced the room. The Stardust dress had been displayed inside a glass case, now insured, preserved, and admired as a symbol of resilience and brilliance. As she looked at it, Daniel Brooks approached Vivian's son, a quiet presence throughout her legal war. He handed her a small velvet box. "What's this?" she asked. He smiled shyly. "Not a proposal, not yet. Just something that doesn't belong in a case." Inside was a single lab-grown diamond, the first one she and Jasper had ever tested, slightly imperfect, faintly glowing. "It survived," Daniel said softly. "Like its creator." Lily's eyes glistened. "Maybe survival isn't the end. Maybe it's the start." He offered his hand. "Then, start with me." As they stepped onto the balcony, the city stretched beneath them, alive, endless, and hers. The sound of cameras flashed through the open doors, but she no longer feared the light. "Vivian once told me justice feels like balance," Lily whispered. She was wrong. "It feels like peace." And as the wind carried her hair across her face, Lily Hart smiled, not as the woman Adrian broke, but as the woman who rebuilt her world from its ashes. The headlines eventually faded, but the echoes of victory didn't. For months, Lily Hart's name lingered everywhere, on magazine covers, podcasts, late-night interviews. The woman who took back her empire. She had become a symbol, not just of success, but of justice earned the hard way. Yet fame, she soon realized, carried its own weight. One chilly evening, she sat alone in her penthouse overlooking Central Park. The skyline glittered like a field of diamonds, but she felt no need to own any of it. On the table beside her, a stack of unopened invitations, from fashion houses, investors, even talk shows, sat untouched. She flipped through them idly, each one offering something shiny but hollow. Vivian entered quietly, a folder under her arm. "You're turning down Vogue, Time, and Harper's Bazaar all in one day. I'm starting to think you enjoy torturing publicists." Lily smiled faintly. "I don't need another photo shoot. I just want silence." Vivian sat opposite to her. "Silence isn't something people like us get to keep." Lily looked out at the city. "Then maybe I'll make some." The next morning, she shocked the press by announcing she was stepping down as CEO of Heartline Holdings. "It's time to give others a chance to create," her statement read. "Power isn't meant to be kept. It's meant to be shared." The board was stunned, but she stood firm. Vivian would remain as chairwoman, Daniel would lead the innovation division, and Lily would retreat, not to escape, but to breathe. She spent weeks traveling quietly, a cabin in Vermont, a beach house in Malibu, a small cottage near Lake Tahoe. Everywhere she went, she found pieces of herself she hadn't realized were missing. One evening, she sat on the porch with Daniel, watching the sun dissolve into the lake. "You know," he said, passing her a mug of coffee, "I think people mistake peace for weakness." She chuckled. "So did Adrian." Daniel leaned closer. "Do you ever think about him?" Lily hesitated. "Sometimes. Not the man himself, but the lessons he left behind. Pain can be a great teacher if you survive it." He nodded. "You didn't just survive. You rebuilt the world that broke you." She smiled softly. "Maybe. But survival always comes with a price." That night, her dreams carried her back to the plaza, the rain, the signature, the humiliation. Only this time, she wasn't crying. She was walking away calmly, her reflection in the marble no longer small but powerful. When she awoke, she made a decision. She returned to New York quietly and visited a women's shelter in the Bronx. No cameras, no reporters. Just Lily in jeans and a soft wool coat, speaking to women who'd been silenced by fear and power. She listened to their stories, each one a mirror of her own past. One woman whispered, "How did you survive when they took everything?" Lily smiled gently. "They didn't take everything. They just made space for what mattered." Within weeks, she established the Heartline Foundation, funding grants for women starting over, from single mothers to aspiring designers. Her new mission wasn't about wealth, it was about legacy. That evening, back at her penthouse, she found an envelope on her doorstep. No name, no seal. Inside, a check, blank, unsigned, and a single note, "For what I can't undo." She recognized the handwriting. Jasper. She folded the note, placed it in a box with the first imperfect diamond Daniel had given her, and whispered, "We all pay the price, one way or another." Then she looked out at the city, her city, and breathed deeply. Because peace, she realized, wasn't the end of her story. It was the reward she'd earned for writing her own. Spring in Manhattan carried a softness Lily hadn't felt in years. The trees lining Fifth Avenue shimmered with new leaves, and for the first time, she walked through the city not as a ghost of her past, but as a woman alive in her present. Every step echoed freedom. It had been 6 months since she stepped down from Heartline Holdings. Yet the brand had never thrived more. Under Daniel and Vivian's leadership, Heartline became the world's leading innovator in sustainable luxury. Investors still sent her flowers. The media still begged for interviews, but she kept her distance. Lily Hart no longer needed a spotlight. She had learned to glow on her own terms. That morning, she sipped coffee at a small cafe across from Central Park, wearing jeans and a white blouse, unnoticed by most. The barista recognized her, though. "You're the diamond lady, right?" he asked shyly. She smiled. "Not anymore. Just Lily." He laughed nervously. "Still, it's an honor. My sister wore your design for her wedding." She said it made her feel powerful. Lily's eyes softened. "Then I did my job." After finishing her coffee, she walked to the Heartline Foundation headquarters, a converted brownstone on 67th Street, warm and filled with light. The foundation had already sponsored 20 young women in design, finance, and law. Vivian joked that Lily had created an army of phoenixes. Inside the main room, Daniel was waiting, leaning against a table piled high with portfolios. "You're late," he teased. "I stopped for coffee," she said. "A fan recognized me." "Of course they did." He grinned. "Your story's in textbooks now. You're basically mythological." "Please," she laughed. "Let's just help the next generation so they never have to sign what I once did." They reviewed applications all afternoon. Women from all over the country, each one with a story of survival. A teenage girl from Detroit wrote about escaping an abusive home. A designer from Texas had been cheated by her business partner. Lily read their words slowly, her throat tightening. "These aren't just applicants," she whispered. "They're echoes." Daniel glanced at her gently. "Then you're their answer." "Just 8. That evening, they hosted a small benefit dinner at the River Cafe, the same restaurant where Adrian once humiliated her years ago. This time, the view of the Brooklyn Bridge shimmered like a crown. The tables glowed under soft candlelight. Laughter filled the air. Vivian raised her glass. "To women who refuse to disappear." Everyone toasted. Lily smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. For a fleeting second, she caught her reflection in the restaurant window. But she didn't see pain anymore. She saw strength, grace, and peace. After the guests left, Daniel joined her by the window. "You know," he said softly, "I don't think this city has ever looked more beautiful." She turned to him. "That's because we finally stopped chasing it. We built our own." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Not the same one as before, but similar. "It's not diamonds," he said with a smirk. Inside was a simple gold band, engraved with a single word, "Begin." Her eyes filled with tears. "Daniel." He took her hand. "No promises, no grand gestures. Just a beginning, on your terms this time." She nodded, voice trembling. "Then yes, let's begin." Outside, the lights of Manhattan glittered like scattered stardust. The same stardust that once adorned her dress, her name, her story. Lily leaned her head against Daniel's shoulder, watching the reflection of the bridge on the water below. "Funny," she whispered. "He built towers, but I built light." And as the night settled around them, Lily Hart finally understood the greatest revenge was not destruction. It was living freely, brilliantly, without fear ever again. The world moved on, but the past never truly disappeared. One cold November morning, as the first snowflakes drifted across the Manhattan skyline, Lily sat in her office at the Heartline Foundation reviewing reports. The city hummed below her alive, steady, almost peaceful. She'd spent 2 years building lives instead of fighting for her own. Yet peace, she knew, had a price. Her assistant knocked softly. "There's someone here to see you. No appointment." Lily frowned. "Who is it?" The assistant hesitated. "He says his name is Adrian Cole." While the room went silent, Lily set her pen down. "Send him in." Moments later, Adrian entered. He looked nothing like the man she once knew. His tailored suits had been replaced by a plain black coat, his hair silvered, his eyes sunken with regret or something pretending to be it. He stood before her desk, voice low. "I thought you'd have me thrown out." "I considered it," she said evenly. But curiosity won. Adrian smirked faintly. "Still sharp." "Still done," she corrected. He studied her for a long moment. "You destroyed me." "No," she replied calmly. "You destroyed yourself. I just stopped covering your mess." He exhaled slowly. "I didn't come to fight. I came to tell you I'm sick. Stage 4 pancreatic. 6 months, maybe less." Her expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened on the edge of her desk. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," he said quietly, "you're the only person I ever truly lost." "Why?" Lily stared at him, memories flashing like lightning. The humiliation, the nights of silence, the cruel smile as he made her sign her life away. "You didn't lose me, Adrian. You threw me away." He nodded slowly. "Maybe. But when everything collapsed, I realized every tower I built was hollow. You were the only thing real." Lily rose, crossing the room until she stood inches from him. "Do you want forgiveness?" His voice cracked. "I don't deserve it." "You're right," she said softly. "But I'll give it anyway. Not for you, for me." Adrian's eyes glistened. "Why?" "Because I refuse to carry you anymore." He swallowed hard, nodding. "I thought you'd want to see me suffer." "I already did," she whispered. 8 years ago, when you made me sign those papers." They stood there in silence, the weight of history thick between them. For the first time, Adrian's arrogance faded completely. He looked small, human, broken. Before leaving, he pulled a small velvet pouch from his pocket and set it on her desk. "I sold what was left of my shares. The money's useless to me now. Use it for your foundation. Maybe to build something better than I did." Lily didn't answer. When he left, the office felt strangely lighter, as if a shadow had finally moved on. That night, she walked through Central Park alone. The lamps glowed through the falling snow, soft and forgiving. She thought about the man he had been, the woman she had become, and the strange symmetry of it all. Forgiveness wasn't a victory march. It was release. She called Daniel later that night. "He came to see me." Daniel's voice was quiet. "And?" "I forgave him." There was a pause. "Then it's really over." She looked out at the skyline, snow catching the city lights like tiny stars. "No," she said softly. "It's finally complete. Gentlemen." A week later, she received a notice. Adrian Cole had passed away quietly in his sleep. She closed her eyes, whispered a small prayer, and set his velvet pouch into the foundation's donation vault. For the first time in her life, Lily Hart felt entirely free, not from him, but from the weight of ever needing revenge again. Winter faded gently that year. The city thawed under a soft March sun, and with it, Lily felt something inside her thaw too. For the first time in a decade, there were no wars to fight, no ghosts to chase, no headlines to survive. Just mornings that smelled of coffee and peace. She sat on the balcony of her penthouse overlooking Central Park, wrapped in a cream cardigan, reading letters from Heartline Foundation scholars. Each envelope carried stories of women who'd rebuilt their lives, seamstresses, entrepreneurs, mothers returning to school. They all thanked her for giving them light. Daniel stepped outside carrying 2 mugs. "You've read those every morning for a week," he teased. "They remind me why it was all worth it," she said, smiling. He leaned on the railing beside her. "You know, you could write your own book. The world still wants your story." Lily chuckled softly. "Maybe one day. But right now, I'm tired of talking about pain. I want to live in what came after." He nodded, understanding. They stood in silence, watching children play in the park below, laughter drifting upward like music. Later that day, She visited the Heartline Foundation's new training center in Brooklyn, a renovated warehouse filled with sewing machines, light, and color. On the wall hung a framed photo of the Stardust dress, beneath it a quote in gold letters: "You can't destroy light, you can only delay its rise." As she walked through the room, one of the students approached shyly. "Miss Hart?" "Yes? I just wanted to say, I read about what you went through. When I'm afraid, I think of you. You make me believe women like us can start again." Lily smiled warmly. "We don't just start again, sweetheart. We start better." The young woman grinned and returned to her sewing machine. Lily lingered for a moment, watching the quiet rhythm of creation. The sound of needles clicking against fabric felt like a heartbeat. Steady, alive. That evening, the foundation hosted a small dinner to celebrate its first year. Vivian gave a brief speech, wry and brilliant as always, then raised her glass. "To survival that turned into strength," she said, "and to a woman who taught us that rebuilding isn't about revenge, it's about rising." Applause filled the room. Lily smiled, humbled, her heart swelling with gratitude. After dinner, Daniel found her standing by the window, gazing at the Manhattan skyline. "You know," he said, "I've never seen you this calm." She turned to him. "That's because I finally stopped trying to prove anything." He smiled. "And yet, you proved everything." Outside, the city glittered like stardust, scattered across the sky. Lily felt the same awe she had years ago, the night she first sewed diamonds into tulle. But now, she understood. The real sparkle wasn't in fabric or fame. It was in the quiet strength of peace hard-earned. Later that night, she returned home and opened an old wooden box she hadn't touched in years. Inside lay her wedding ring, her first sketchbook, and a small note written by her younger self. "Don't let them take your light." She smiled. "You kept your promise," she whispered. Daniel entered quietly, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. "What's that?" "Just a reminder from someone I used to be," she said softly. He kissed her temple. "Then, let's write the next chapter together." "Hi." She leaned into him, eyes glistening. "No more storms." "No more storms," he promised. Lily looked once more at the city through the glass, alive, bright, and peaceful. Because, for the first time, the woman who once fell to ruin had found something stronger than revenge, fame, or diamonds. She had found quiet joy. The morning of her wedding arrived with sunlight spilling through silk curtains, soft and golden like promise itself. The Plaza Hotel, the very place where her life had once shattered, was now blooming with white roses, crystal chandeliers, and a quiet hum of excitement. After years of heartbreak, battles, and healing, Lily Hart was about to walk the same marble floors again, but this time, not as the woman who signed her pain away. Today, she would reclaim them in love. Vivian entered the bridal suite first, elegant in a navy gown. "You know," she said, smirking, "there's something poetic about you getting married here. It's like telling fate." "Nice try." Lily laughed softly. "Poetic or insane?" "Both," Vivian replied. "Which is why it suits you." The mirror before Lily reflected a woman transformed. Her gown shimmered with the same diamond thread technique that once rebuilt her name, only this time, the light felt gentler, warmer. The dress was titled New Dawn. She'd sewn it herself, every stitch deliberate, every sparkle a whisper of survival. There was a knock. Daniel stepped in, still in his shirt sleeves, tie undone. He froze when he saw her. "You're breathtaking," he said quietly. Vivian rolled her eyes. "You're not supposed to see her yet." Daniel smiled. "After what she's been through, I think she's earned the right to break a few rules." Lily turned toward him, emotion thick in her throat. "You know, I used to think love was about being chosen. Now I know it's about being safe." He crossed the room slowly, stopping just close enough to touch her hand. "And you'll always be safe with me." Vivian cleared her throat. "All right, lovebirds, save the vows for the altar." When Daniel left, Lily stood by the window, looking down at Fifth Avenue. Reporters were gathering outside, hoping for a glimpse of the once disgraced designer who had become a symbol of rebirth. For the first time, she didn't resent their curiosity. Let them see. Let them witness what it looked like when a woman rebuilt her destiny. Minutes before the ceremony, her assistant entered holding a small package. "This just arrived, Miss Hart. No return address. Lily frowned, opening it carefully. Inside was a simple white handkerchief, embroidered with one line of stitching. For when tears fall again, may they be from joy. The initials below read A.C. Her breath caught. Adrian Cole. Vivian noticed. "What is it?" Lily folded the cloth gently. "A ghost saying goodbye." She tucked it into her bouquet. "Let him rest." The ceremony began beneath the grand chandelier. Guests rose as Lily entered, her steps slow, graceful, unhurried. The music swelled, echoing softly off marble, the same marble where she once cried alone. Now, each step rewrote that memory. Daniel waited at the altar, eyes shining. "I still can't believe you said yes," he whispered as she reached him. Lily smiled. "After everything, how could I not?" They exchanged vows simple and raw, no grand promises, just truth. "I don't promise perfection," Daniel said, "only peace." "I don't promise never to fall," Lily replied. "Only to rise again, with you beside me." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, applause thundered through the ballroom. Cameras flashed. Outside, Fifth Avenue filled with cheers. Vivian raised her glass later at the reception. To Lily, heartproof that grace can outshine gold, and that even the plaza can witness miracles twice. Lily laughed, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. Daniel took her hand as they stepped onto the balcony, overlooking the glittering Manhattan night. "You did it," he whispered. She shook her head softly. "No, we did." Below them, the city glowed alive, forgiving, eternal. And as Lily leaned into Daniel's embrace, she realized she had come full circle. The place that once broke her now blessed her. Love had rewritten the ending. The morning after the wedding, New York woke to headlines that read, "From divorce to diamonds, Lily Hart marries at the plaza, 8 years after signing her freedom away." But for once, Lily didn't care what the world said. She was no longer living for the story people wrote about her. She was living for the one she chose to write herself. The penthouse was quiet except for the hum of the city outside. Daniel was still asleep, his arm resting gently over her waist. The sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains, catching the ring on her finger, a lab-grown diamond, the same kind she'd once stitched into fabric, a symbol of what she'd learned. Beauty could come from pressure, brilliance from pain. She slipped out of bed and stepped onto the balcony. Below her, Central Park shimmered in the early morning light, alive and peaceful. For the first time in years, she felt no rush, no fear, no ghosts whispering behind her. Vivian called around 8, her tone lighter than usual. "Mrs. Brooks," she teased. "How does it feel to have the city at your feet?" Lily laughed. "It feels like I finally stopped needing it to kneel." Vivian chuckled. Classic Lily. Also, Heartline Foundation hit a new milestone this morning. 50 scholarships funded. The world's catching up to you. Lily smiled. "Good. Let them." After the call, she sat at her desk and opened her old sketchbook, its edges worn, pages filled with both designs and memories. On one page, she'd once written her goals in shaky handwriting. Survive, create, heal. She took a pen and added one last word beneath them. Teach. That afternoon, she and Daniel attended the opening of the Heartline Academy of Design, a dream she'd quietly built over the past year. The academy's glass facade reflected the Manhattan skyline, modern, unbreakable. Inside, young designers worked in bright studios, their laughter echoing through the halls. A reporter approached her as she cut the ribbon. "Miss Hart, what inspired this academy?" Lily smiled. "Failure, loss, and every woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough. I wanted to build a place where creativity isn't measured by power, but by courage." Jin. As the cameras flashed, she felt no fear of the spotlight anymore. Fame wasn't her fuel, it was her amplifier. That evening, during the gala celebrating the Academy's launch, Daniel found her standing near a display case that held the Stardust dress. It now belonged to the school, not her. "You're giving it away?" he asked softly. She nodded. "It doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the women who need to remember they can shine after they break." Chapter 1. Daniel slipped his arm around her shoulders. "You realize you've become a legend, right?" She smiled. "Legends fade. Legacies grow." Later that night, As guests left and the city lights blinked beyond the windows, Lily walked alone through the empty hallways. She ran her fingers along the walls of her academy, feeling the pulse of everything she'd built. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every scar, it had all led here, to peace, to purpose, to love. She stopped by a classroom window and looked out over the city that had once devoured her and now carried her name in gold letters. "Thank you," she whispered to the city, to fate, to herself. Her phone buzzed with a new message from a scholarship student. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my dream." Lily typed back, "You don't owe me thanks. Just promise to help the next girl who forgets her worth." She turned off her phone and gazed at the skyline one last time that night. Because her story was no longer about loss or revenge, it was about legacy. And as the lights of New York shimmered like diamonds across the horizon, Lily Hart finally smiled, not as the woman who survived, but as the woman who built light itself. So that's it, my friends. Our story has come full circle. If you're still here right now, listening, watching, feeling, maybe something in Lily's journey touched a quiet place in your own heart. Because this story isn't just about betrayal or revenge. It's about healing. About standing up again when the world tells you you're finished. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And Lily taught us exactly that. Pain may stain you for a while, but it doesn't define you. You choose what color to become after the fall. Maybe life has taken things from you. Love, trust, hope. But like Lily, you can rebuild. You can turn heartbreak into strength, silence into peace, and loss into light. That's the quiet magic of resilience. If this story made you feel something real, a little hope, a little courage, then don't let it end here. Hit like, share this video with someone who needs a reminder that they can rise again, and subscribe so we can keep walking this journey together. Because sometimes, the story you watch becomes the story you live. And maybe, just maybe, your own light is about to return.